Welcome everyone to the fall session of the Zone 33, 34 coordinators around the region. Director Stephanie and I are with you this afternoon and would like to also welcome Director-elect Peter Kyle. Peter's with us today, and we'll be talking a little bit later. A few items that we wanted to cover with you that happened at the board meeting. It was a fairly substantive board meeting. We did open up and received a report with the June 30 numbers, July 1 numbers for 19. We're up through 209 clubs over the last year. So we are expanding into new territories where we haven't been. However, worldwide, we were down about 5,600 members, ending at 1.19 million members roughly as of June 30, July 1. A couple of things that we approved at the meeting were, to me, major changes going forward, major positive things. We approved a pilot partnership concept with the Global Partnership for Education. It's a global fund that aims to strengthen the education system in developing countries, and we expect that it probably will become a major partnership for us going forward as we're looking at education. As we all know, the Bill and Melinda Gates has been a strategic resource partnership with us for a long time in the Polio Plus initiative, but we also agreed to a resource partnership with the Eleanor Crook Foundation that will involve a nutrition initiative with the power of nutrition in sub-Saharan Africa. They will be contributing $2.5 million to this project, and the Rotary Foundation will match that amount. So the initial opportunity in sub-Saharan Africa will be $5 million. They have also committed that they will be contributing more funds for more initiatives going forward. We approved a new Rotary Fellowship, which is the Rotary Peace Fellowship Alumni Association. And the item that took a half a day of talking about in a very positive way that I was very excited to have been the chair of is the Elevate Rotary Task Force report. And there were some major substantive changes that we approved going forward with Rotary. First of all, we approved that Rotary clubs can organize without a sponsor. Heretofore, they had to have a sponsoring Rotary club. And we also approved that a Rotary club can organize with a Rotary club sponsor as well. We removed the upper age limit of Rotary. We had the artificial number of 30 years old to be a member of Rotary, and that had been an arbitrary number. There was discussed about other numbers, and we finally agreed, based on the task force's recommendation, that it be removed altogether, but maintain that wording that the Rotary Act is a program for young adults. We strongly encourage Rotary districts to include Rotary actors in every district committee, and we further reviewed the possibility or what they would be assessed in the way of per capita dues for Rotary actors. We had a survey done some months ago, but the response was just not statistically broad enough around the world to determine what Rotary actors could afford and would be willing to pay. We already had pretty much knowledge and agreement that Rotary actors are willing to pay Rotary International dues, but we just didn't know how much. The survey went out about 3 weeks ago over my signature and Barry's signature, and it has caught a lot of attention. We're up to about 10,000 respondees now on that survey, which, and statistically speaking, we have enough information from the whole planet now about what Rotary actors feel they can afford, what they feel happy about affording, and what value that we're going to give to them. So we will be bringing that item back to the board of directors at the January meeting in Evanston, and in all probability there will become a new structure for Rotary dues as of July the 1st. Up until now, there has been a fee of $50 for chartering a Rotary club, And based on the probability of there being Rotaract dues, we agreed that as of 1 July, that we would stop charging that fees and we would substitute that with per capita Rotaract fees. We also did a resolution encouraging future RI presidents to appoint Rotaractors as advisors to RI committees. One of the things that the Elevate Rotaract task force spent a lot of discussion time in August at our 2-day meeting was that of a mobile app for Rotary and for Rotaractors. And the board of directors pretty much unanimously agreed that everything that they belong to, or most things that they belong to, has a mobile app where they can access all kinds of stuff. And really the only mobile app that we have is the Rotary Rewards. So we're researching with staff the possibility of having a Rotary/Rotaract mobile app for all kinds, anything that you basically could get on myrotary.com, myrotary.org. And I see Patrick clapping his hands. I don't know when that will come, but it does have a certain amount of priority about it to get it done in the near future. We set goals pertaining to Rotaract that were recommended from the Elevate Rotaract Task Force. The goal is to increase the number of reported Rotaractors by 100% by 2022. We currently have about 180,000 Rotaractors that are reported. We don't know that they're all. We don't know that they're all reported. Yes, Nancy just posted on the message, and that Rotarians could use them up. This is the app as well, and that is correct. It is a joint. It would be a joint app for Rotary and Rotaract. Also agreed to work toward increasing the number of reported Rotaractors who join Rotary clubs by 20% by that same 3-year period of 2022. And that by 2029, which would be a 10-year goal, that we increase the number of reported Rotaractors to 1 million Rotaractors within 10 years. I think that is a very doable goal based on the number of Rotaractors and Rotaract clubs separate from Rotary clubs that we did charter this past year when past President Berry, had such a strong emphasis on Rotaract. That is all things that are moving Rotaract forward in integrating them into the Rotary International Organization. And I'd like to go sideways for just a minute, because Director-elect Peter and I have been talking about some things that are going on with Rotaract in the northern end of our zone, and I'd like to turn to Peter to tell us about that. Peter?
Okay, thanks, David. Good afternoon, everybody. The one thing that I think was stood out for me from the recent decisions by the board was to eliminate the older age limit. I think that's going to have a dramatic impact. Much of the evidence we have is that when Rotaractors get to age 30, not that many of them transfer over to a Rotary club. And those that do don't necessarily stay all that long because they don't find it a comfortable fit. Many of them would like to stay in the Rotaract club, and I think that's a good thing for them, and it's a good thing for the Rotaract club. And I think that will see a significant additional bonding element between Rotaractors and Rotary. Last weekend in my district, 7620, the Rotaract Club of Georgetown University had a fabulous Peace and Conflict Resolution Conference. The district governor has decreed that there'll be 6 of these conferences in this district this year, each one being sponsored by a Rotary club and a Rotaract club at each of the 6 universities in the district. This was fabulously successful. They're going to do a report, and I would like to see this sort of example replicated all around the zones. Last year, the priority was to increase the number of Rotaract clubs. Now I think a greater priority is to determine what exactly do we want the Rotaract clubs to do? Why do they exist? What are the causes that they support? And I think for university-based Rotaract clubs, convening a conference, having seminars, having workshops is a good use of their skills. It develops organizational skills. It provides a raison d'etre for the clubs to exist. So I'm excited about the replicable effect of what we're doing in this district, and I will be promoting this in other districts as we move forward. So that's all I wanted to say on Rotary, but I'm very happy with the decisions of the board. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Peter. And now we'll turn to Director Stephanie to talk about meetings. I was speaking about programs and awards. Director Stephanie.
Thanks, David. Before we move away from programs, I just wanted to share with you coordinators and advisors, you might at some point want to check the Rotary website to get a clearer idea of the kinds of partnerships that Rotary engages in. You know, I get questions frequently from people about, you know, why don't we partner with this organization, that one? We have different kinds of partnerships. There's a service partnership where an organization has specific projects that align with our causes. Shelter Box is an example of that. David mentioned, you know, a strategic partnership that we have with Bill and Melinda Gates in our fight to eradicate polio. But there are also project partnerships and corporate and fund partnerships, resource partnerships. And one of the partnerships that David mentioned, I just wanted to bring to your attention that Eleanor Crook Foundation is the first one in a long time that is actually bringing funds into Rotary. So from a funding perspective, that's a very interesting partnership for us to move forward to. So you can check that out on Rotary.org. Okay, so at the board meeting, the board of directors also looked at meetings, upcoming meetings. So you'll be happy to know that 12 districts in Taiwan agreed to host the 2021 International Convention in June of that year, and it will be in Taipei, Taiwan. So you can mark your calendars. Also, it was approved that beginning in the year 2026, that's the first year of a cycle of about 7, that Rotary is going to hold its convention in a city that doesn't necessarily meet all of the critical criteria to host the convention. So to that end, they agreed to solicit proposals from Durban, South Africa, Genoa, Italy, Krakow, Poland, Manila in the Philippines, Rimini, Italy, Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, and Trondheim, Norway. So it's an attempt for Rotary to expand its reach and start to look at other locations, knowing that those cities may not be able to meet each of the critical criteria. Okay, David, back to you for administration and finance decisions.
One of the roles that the president-elect has at this meeting in the fall is to bring forward candidates for the Rotary Foundation Board of Trustees. They are elected by the Rotary Board of Directors. Up until this year, the president-elect brought either 3 or 4 candidates, depending on how many were rolling off, and the recommendation from one past Rotary International president to serve on the board. This year, it was 3 non-past presidents and 1 past president. Barry Rassin was proffered as the past president to go on the Board of Trustees. But the process otherwise changed this year. The council voted that that the president-elect should bring at least twice the number of candidates than the number of slots to fill, so that for the first time, the board would technically have a choice on who is going onto the trustee board. This particular year, first year out, there were 9 candidates whose names had been submitted for the board and had passed through the committee structure to be eligible. And President-elect Holger brought all 9 candidates. He said, I would be happy to serve with any of these as incoming trustees. And so I give you the list and let you make the choice for the final 3 on them, which the board did. And we elected Sung Min Lin, Gita Minek, Aziz Minman, and of course Barry Rassin to the Board of Trustees beginning on July 1. Have all of you heard the story that Barry Rassin has told about the leader that said, I want to go see ISIS and I want to talk to them, and one day somebody showed up, they blindfolded him, put him in a car and took him to an undisclosed location, and he said, you need to give us a break. You need to let us get into these two countries and do the vaccinations. And he actually lived to tell about it, and that's a very good thing. But that is Aziz Miman, that was the person that wasn't why he was elected to the Board of Trustees, but that's how passionate he is about the foundation. And I'm very excited about having these 4 individuals coming on for the coming year. We also approved the committee structure for next year. At the Council on Legislation, the board was successful in removing a lot of the committees that we have from the constitutional documents so that we don't have as many standing committees as we once had. Last year, the board of directors cut the number of committees into half, and those that we still kept restructured the way that they would meet to be more cost efficient so that they're meeting in go-to-meeting webinars, Zoom calls, and that type of thing, rather than bringing a lot of people to Evanston. And this, but it still is incumbent upon us to approve all of the committees for the next year. Last January, a year ago, we approved what I thought was a very strong adult harassment policy. And immediately out of the gate, we had several situations that came up that put that policy to work. And there were 3 that I know of in different areas of 3 different areas of the country that had harassment policy questions, violations, complaints. Complaints is the right word. And from that, all 3 areas learned some lessons about how it could have been handled more effectively. So we took a strong look at that and updated the harassment policy to make it easier to interpret, to make it very clear about what processes should be taken and followed. And we also agreed that incoming and current club presidents, governors, regional leaders, and directors shall be provided annual training on Rotary's adult harassment policy, because we're not taking this lightly. And then staff is working to incorporate it into all of the training for all future presidents-elect at the PETS and governors-elect at the International Assembly, so that everyone is educated going forward and everyone knows how to respond, and we all respond in the same way. We also looked at the annual goals for Rotary for 2021, and I'll turn to Stephanie to talk about that.
Thanks, David. I'm happy to share with you goals that were approved by the board. I'm excited to tell you that they all fall under our strategic plan, our vision statement, and our strategic plan. So the first priority statement is increase our impact, and you know that's the priority that moves us forward in terms of measuring what we do and showing impact. I frequently tell the story about Ian Risley's year when he asked each of us to go out and plant a tree for every member in our club, and we all did that. And, you know, over the course of the year, those numbers were shipped in, and eventually we had X million number of trees planted. But that's where it stopped. We didn't take it far enough. That was input and output. We needed to really take that further. So what? What did it do? Did it change the CO2? How did it improve life? So we need to get better at measuring impact. So these are the 4 goals under that priority that the board approved. The first one, eradicate polio and highlight Rotary's role. It's a given that we are not going to move away from that goal until it's finished. The second one, increase contributions to the annual fund and Polio Plus while we build our endowment fund. Currently, the endowment fund has a campaign that's called 2.025 billion by 2025. So we want to continue to do that. The third one, we want to improve how we measure impact of district grants, global grants, Polio Plus, and the Rotary Peace Centers. Again, that goes back to the whole idea of measurement. Income, outcome, input, outcome, I'm forgetting the third one, and then finally, you know, the impact. What impact does
Input,
the work
output.
that we do, output, yeah, thank you, have on the world? And the fourth one, we want to continue to build new partnerships, including opportunities with governments, so that we can enhance the global footprint that we have in humanitarian service. The second priority goal is expand our reach. This is the one where, you know, we're asking the Rotary world to think about how we share the magic of Rotary and enhance it and get more people involved. So there are 3 goals under this one. The first one is to increase and diversify participation by starting new clubs and innovative clubs. You all may have heard about Tom Gump, DGE Tom Gump from Minnesota, who just chartered the very first in the world Rotary Club for Veterans. I think it chartered about 2 weeks ago, and it's verified to be the first in the world. They're not all veterans, but they're all people, and there are 40 people in the club who are committed to doing good work for veterans. So we also want to diversify how participants engage with us. So in addition to starting new clubs, that means we also look at our existing clubs and figure out how to make them more appealing so that we can be more attractive to new members. The second goal there is to look at diversity, increase the number of female members, members under 40, Rotaractors who join Rotary, as well as other underrepresented groups. The third priority, goal under priority 2, is to build awareness of Rotary and Rotarians as people of action. Our third goal is enhance participant engagement, and this one is probably the one that I spend most time talking about. You know, David mentioned earlier that although we have started new clubs, for 2018 we lost members. So what that translates to is that we have more clubs with fewer members. And I don't think that necessarily is a bad thing, but it's certainly not a great thing either. So the goals under this one, there are 3. We want to enhance the engagement among Interact, Rotaract, and Rotary Club members, as well as other Rotary participants. How do we get those groups working together in a more meaningful way? Secondly, we want to increase collaboration between all of the participants, in particular between Rotary clubs and Rotaract clubs. You know, we have elevated Rotaract so that it is now not a program of Rotary. Rotaract is an equal partner with Rotary. So we need to make sure that we treat Rotaractors in that way and collaborate in more meaningful ways with them. And finally, we want to build new partnerships so that we enhance, again, this global footprint of what we do in humanitarian service. Our fourth priority is increasing our ability to adapt. We have 2 goals there. One is implement adjustments to our volunteer leadership structure. What does that mean? That means we need to look for ways to make positions meaningful and doable for working professionals. It means we want to diversify leadership so that we get new perspectives and create more opportunities for people to be heard. It also means that we want to simplify our structures. In our Rotary clubs, we want to make sure that clubs are supporting the core functions of what they're doing: service, fellowship, leadership, fundraising. So we need to make sure that those things are in place. And then the second goal under that priority is focus and potentially narrow our program efforts. The Strategic Planning Committee at its October meeting put together and approved a plan that is going to be tested and ultimately will go to the board of how we look at our programs and evaluate and measure their effectiveness. You know, Rotary is really good at adding things, but not so good at taking things away. So we need a plan. We need to look at how do we narrow our programs to make sure that we're not doing too many things and giving too little service in too many different ways. So those are the four goals the four priorities and the goals under each that were approved by the board. Now I'm going to ask George, who's on the call, to talk a little bit with you about something that he came up with for February. George, do you want to talk about Leap into Rotary?
Certainly, Stephanie. Thanks for the opportunity. This actually emanated from a meeting with the assistant Rotary coordinators back in Jacksonville. We recognized that quite a number of the districts were very well utilizing party formats to increase the exposure to Rotary and to attract new members. We called it our parties with a purpose. But one district were particularly successful in this, and when we analyzed what they did different to the others, it was actually because they very subtly never really mentioned Rotary during the party. And that's what gave us thought to have this Leap into Rotary. Now, obviously, Leap into Rotary is because it's a leap year next year. The parties are designed to be held round about the 29th of February, the week of, or the week before, the week after, or specifically on the 29th, which gives us our rather catchy Leap into Rotary. The format for the parties, the invitations, and the timeline are all supplied to clubs through the zone website under resources. If you go to the very bottom of the resources, zone leadership resources, I think it's the second last item for videos. You will see a video there that explains the whole process for having a Leap into Rotary event. Now, I will tell you that it's already getting good traction in many districts. The Caribbean seem to be particularly playful as far as parties are concerned. No surprise there. But you can get all of the information regarding how this all comes about, how the invites are sent out, almost with this subliminal Rotary aspect on it. And just to quickly inform you why this is a little bit different, it's supposed to make people comfortable and develop the fellowship, of course. Towards the end, what they've found is that instead of actually bringing up Rotary, the guests start to bring up Rotary because they've seen that they bring up Rotary and they're told, well, why don't you come along on Wednesday and we'll show you. The great thing is that a high percentage do come along to the meeting because they've actually got over that initial problem of walking into a room not knowing what to expect, because they already know that there will be people on the other side of the door who they've already met, who they've socialized with, and so we've broken down one of the barriers. And that's one of the main elements that causes the success of this overall program. So I've condensed it all down, but let me tell you that all of the information required is on that video, and unfortunately I won't be in Atlanta, and I'll just take this opportunity to thank Patrick Eakes and to thank Alex Wilkins for standing in for me. And the other person that will be standing in for me is Art McQueen. Sorry to foist more of Art on you, but you know, he's a great guy. So I go back into hospital for a quick visit tomorrow and the next day, and then I will have a further procedure later in November, which precludes me being with you, and I am absolutely gutted. However, mental capacity remains as it was, and I know that you don't all rate that very highly, but if you do need any information on Leap on Rotary, please send me an email. I can still do all of that stuff. It's just the physical stuff, because I have tubes coming out down here that you can't see, and I don't get rid of those for a little while yet. So please get in touch with me. The brain's still working, and I'll be glad to answer any questions about Leap into Rotary you may have. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thanks, George, and we certainly hope that your recovery goes well. And we are going to miss you. It won't be the same without you, but we understand.
Thank you so much.
Patrick, I wanted to ask you if you will talk about something that's happening before February, that's happening in Zone 33. So would you like to talk about the Grow Rotary session in Pennsylvania?
Would be happy to, Stephanie. And first off, because it's the first time I'm speaking, can you all hear me okay? Okay, great. Yeah, December 14th, so just a few weeks after our summit in Atlanta, we will gather in Cranberry, Pennsylvania, which is just to the north of Pennsylvania, for a Grow Rotary event with senior leaders of the 3 districts that are realigning with Zone 33. So that's 7305. I still have to cheat on this a little bit. 7305, 7280, and 7360. So their district governor chains, their district membership chairs, and their district membership committee members are invited to a Grow Rotary event that'll be held through the middle part of Saturday the 14th. I will be there along with my colleague from Zone 29, who still continues to serve those 3 districts, Melissa Ward, and the local assistant coordinator, Mike Hornby, and of course Stephanie will be there. Nancy, I think you plan to be with us, and perhaps Alex will be with us as well. It'll be a great opportunity, one, certainly to talk about our overall Grow Rotary effort, which is, frankly, central to what all of the coordinator teams are doing. And 2, to start further establishing relationships with the leaders of those 3 districts. Both zones over the last decade or so have had new districts come in, and we know that it's important that be done well, that those leaders quickly not only feel but know that they're part of our zones and our zone families. So we hope to accomplish both of those things while we're there. We had a few folks from those 3 districts who joined us for district membership chair training back in the spring, and then about 20 who registered for our zone seminars in June. So that effort's underway. We hope this will continue that. After the main Grow Rotary session that's from 11 a.m. till 4 in the afternoon, we'll have a holiday mixer, still on the Grow Rotary theme, inviting local presidents and presidents-elect who are able to come in for that. And while it will be, I think, a little bit lighter and social and festive, there will still be a definite Grow Rotary theme as part of that. So we're still working on a few details to get everything nailed down, but we've got the date on the calendar, we've got invitations, save the dates out, and really looking forward to meeting, like I said, a new part of our zone family on December 14th.
Patrick, can you send to me details about this event, please?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Before I turn it back over to David, I wanted to check Peter. Are there some other items that you'd like to share with the group?
Well, just to update you on some of the international activities that are going on this year. As you know, Mark's theme, Rotary Connects the World. The 4th element of his sub-themes is the international recognition of Rotary's relationship with the UN. The UN will be celebrating its 75th anniversary in June of next year. So the whole year there are a series of celebrations around the world. And as far as Rotary is concerned, there are 5 events. The first is a Rotary Day at the UN this coming Saturday. Slight wrinkle there because 2 weeks ago, the Secretary General decided that the UN premises would be closed in the evenings and on the weekends. So we've had to scurry around and find an alternative venue in New York for 500 hungry Rotarians, which has not been easy. But that's going to be a big event on Saturday. At the end of February, we have an event in Santiago, Chile, which is also a little bit suspect at the moment because of the unrest in Santiago. We're partnering with the United Nations Commission for Latin America. Each of these conferences has a theme. The theme in New York is refugees and displaced persons. In Santiago, the theme is on better cities, building communities. At the end of February and end of March, rather, in Paris, we're partnering with UNESCO on peace and conflict resolution issues. The beginning of May, we have the 4th event in Rome, partnering with the FAO and IFAD and the World Food Organizations that are based in Rome. And again, the focus is on refugees and displaced persons with a particular focus on Europe. And then the 5th one is on the Friday before the International Convention in Hawaii, which happens to be World Environment Day. And there'll be quite a big event bringing together the highlights of the previous 4 conferences. And again, making a big thing out of the very strong and close relationship which Rotary has had with the UN since it was founded. Rotary, as you know, Rotarians were heavily involved in the drafting process. 49 out of the 800 delegates in San Francisco were Rotarians. And since then, we've had a close relationship with many of the individual UN organs. So that's an exciting development to look forward to during the rest of this year. Back to you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Peter. Before I ask David to wrap us up, I just wanted to take an opportunity to say thank you to all of the folks on the call. You know, our Zone Summit in Atlanta will be happening in 2 weeks, and all of you, whether you're going to be there or not, have played a part to help develop and shape the preparation and the program. And I am just blown away. As I look at all the material and I read through what's happening, we are going to have one bang up time. So thank you so much for all of your input. David.
And I will echo what Stephanie just said from my chair. You all are incredible. You each do incredible jobs for Rotary and the Foundation. I know some of you are working on your teams for next year, and thank you for doing that. And we will, because of the preparedness of this group, we will march on the rest of this year and into the new year, I know, with banner speed. And thank you for everything, not just not just what you do during the year, but a lot of you have had specific input and involvement in preparing for the summit in Atlanta. People last year said, how are you going to top that next year? I said, we're not going to top it next year. We're going to pass it in a different direction. So there's a lot of different stuff this year, even from last year, and we hope that you'll have a good time when you're there. Peter and Margaret, Kim and I will be representing the 2 zones in New York on Saturday at the UN Day, so you'll be well represented there. And 2 weeks from today, we will be in full bore in hot Atlanta, Georgia, and I look forward to seeing you all there. Does anyone else have anything that they'd like to add or questions based on what Stephanie and I or Peter have said? And by the way, I just emailed each of you a copy of the board highlights, which we spoke to from today. But anybody have a question or a comment? I guess not. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye, everybody.